It's just the first reading. It's on the agenda for 11:15. Chuck has to take off, so we're gonna bump this up a little bit. Chuck has a comment that he would like to make, which makes no difference on this resolution as it's the first reading.
It makes absolutely no difference. I'm just gonna say I'm not gonna support any tax or anything. I was informed during the last legislature, when they were talking about all this, about how the taxes were forcing the black markets in other states. Other states warned our legislature about that. Got a lot of high taxes anyway. And then anybody that thinks that a black market is gonna stop with marijuana products is dreaming, in my opinion. And we even talked in the last meeting we had about fentanyl laced marijuana that could be in the black market. It's horrible. So I'm just not gonna support any tax for anything, medicinal, whatever.
So would we
Pretty
call
much
for,
it.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's pretty much it.
That's okay.
Yeah, you call for public comment.
Is there any public comment?
To what?
Yes.
To what?
We upped the resolution for reading for 2022-8 because Chuck has to take off. And we did it, and it was okay with the county attorney, so I really not want any comment on that.
I would just say, leave the public
We're gonna
comment
be
open through that time.
Yeah, we'll stay open, but we just, because he has to take off, he wanted to make a comment on it.
Point of order, or point of reference, or point
Do you
of...
have a comment?
Point of order.
Do you wanna?
The meeting's supposed to start at 11:15, and there's a bunch of people out there waiting for that meeting to start. This is 11 o'clock, and it's supposed to be the graveyard grant. And I don't think, as a point of order, that you can do that. Rush the meeting when people are waiting to be at this meeting.
Okay, he has to take off. There is no decision being made on this. It's just the first reading.
So then are you gonna put this
And
table
he wanted
it?
to give his opinion. We're here, we're gonna visit with it, but it's open right now. And we'll carry on through 11:30 with this first reading. If anybody else has discussion, Chuck has to leave, they can bring their discussion, it'll go on Zoom and everyone will hear it. Does that sound okay?
Well, point of order, you're gonna be down 2 commissioners, so I think that you should just table it. I don't know.
No, we will not.
This
table
is,
it.
this is,
It's the first reading. It's just-
this is not
It's
the
a
way
first
a
reading.
meeting should be held, and that's for the record. Thank you. It's a public meeting,
Yes.
and you're violating codes and the Constitution.
Can you please explain what the first reading means?
The
Is there,
first, there
so
is,
there's one, how many are there and what's the process? That might help.
a resolution has to have 2 readings. And so this resolution, we've gone over the resolution, the wording in the resolution should have been on the website for you to look at. And the first reading is, I guess, comments, is that correct, Lane?
Yeah, and you can actually read it word by
Okay.
word if you'd like, or you
Okay.
can waive that.
Okay.
But yeah, you're taking public comment now
So
on the
is this something
resolution.
that I can do with him not being present because there's no quorum, or what?
I would take the public comment right now while he's here, if you would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want me to quickly read the resolution? Or,
No, I read it.
okay. Does everybody have a copy of the resolution? And the resolution's on the website?
Here's a copy of the resolution.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I have
Yeah.
another copy.
Can I have a hard copy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it.
Here you go.
Oh, thanks, got it.
You guys have one? Okay.
So Mike I say now that I'll vote for the emergency agreement for Riddick Field?
Well,
Or
The,
just give blast my proxy or whatever?
it
No, he's going up the next item.
is,
He's going
is Scott calling in on that? And now?
If he could.
So we've done the grave.
Maybe call him right now and see if you can get him on. I think that'd be,
Okay,
Best
let's see
way
if I,
here.
just a second, let me see if I can do this again. Callers. Dial. Oh, that was easy.
Maybe send him a text. He
Yeah,
never
right.
answers it.
Oh, right.
Your call has been forwarded to.
So, what is this emergency facilities land use agreement?
I'll just
Letting them use it for the fire?
fire.
I just never researched it where you have, and I know you can give proxies, but, and then only have one commissioner here, I
Yeah.
never researched that, so. You can give proxies as
How
long
about
as two commissioners are
How
accepted.
about if I call him?
Hmm?
I'll call him.
You'll what, call in?
Yeah,
11:30.
11:50.
Yeah.
Okay, wanna do that?
Can you wait to hear the public comment on the resolution? Okay, thanks.
If it's right now.
Yeah.
So is
Did I
it public
announce it?
comment?
Yeah. If you
Let me
it,
announce it
yeah.
again. Okay, so we are in resolution 2022-8. The Granite County resolution approving 2 ballot issues for the general election on November 8th, 2022 in regards to local option excise taxes for all non-medical marijuana and medical marijuana sales in Granite County, and this is the first reading. Do I have to read the first reading?
You could waive it or you could read it.
Okay, we're good. We have the resolution. It is, the public has access to it, and it is on the website. And so we're going to waive the reading of resolution 2022-8, first reading. Is there any public comment?
Yes.
I just have a statement and question about the terminology used on the proposed language. So on ballot initiative number 1, as it's written, should it actually be on the ballot in November, assuming we get enough signatures? We're using 2 different terminologies. One is recreational, one is non-medical. And the question is, should we be consistent with the language?
The, well,
As is recreational.
well, there, I think there, looking at the excise tax, it talks about in the statute, non-medical and medical. And so, there's a distinction there between, those ballot issues and the one on the, recreational dispensaries is a separate subject. So I think, this resolution is consistent with the statutory language.
And on the ballot language is if non-medical makes it to the ballot, should there be a tax? And
Right.
the other one is,
Right. see it.
Now I can't read it. You have to read it. And the other one is, because there is, medical marijuana, but there's still no dispensaries. So on the medical marijuana, if the signatures aren't gathered on the second reading, then we'll go there and see what happens.
This is, points out my statement before, that this is confusing. And this, if this is on the ballot, it's gonna be confusing, and that's the reason.
Okay, so if it's confusing to you,
It's confusing to everybody.
it's not confusing to me, and it's not confusing as how I feel about it. I think, like I made my comment last week, that this has nothing to do with it. It's a two-way street and everyone should get their day in court, so to speak.
Yeah, I think the language here is consistent with the statute. I mean,
I'm sorry I didn't say my name earlier. It's Justine Richmond for the record. So the language on ballot number 1 does say, shall licensed adult use recreational marijuana dispensaries be allowed in Granite County, Montana. I understand the non-medical versus medical is in the statute. Now that makes sense to me why that language was used. Is there a way to refer to ballot issue number 1? So in that second ballot initiative, should ballot issue number 1 pass, or whatever language, then, you know, just adding that piece right there, relating the two, maybe might make it a little bit more clear. I'm not sure if that helps with any confusion, Mr. Hinkle.
So it says, if ballot issue passes, should there be a tax? It's yes or no?
Correct.
Yes.
she's saying,
Correct.
can you refer to the actual ballot
Initiative.
number? No, ballot issue number 1?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
In the language on the,
Well, I think that would be confusing because it's the only ballot issue. Would it confuse it with the hospital district?
well, there's gonna be, yeah, there potentially could be 4 ballot issues. The,
Are you asking if it's gonna be, they'll maybe vote for the,
No, I'm just trying to help with any confusion, since that's what's been brought up by Mr. Hinkle.
It might
you know.
help.
Yeah.
Just trying to-
Look at the average person out there, they're gonna look at that.
the recreational would be ballot issue number 1, so that language could be added in here. You know, and with that said, we haven't added the ballot issue language yet anyway, because it hasn't gotten the signatures.
So it has
That's
to,
got to be added
right.
next week too.
Okay, so this is our resolution and we wanna get it on the ballot in time. So if your signatures, if you don't get enough signatures, then
Well, you're just gonna table the resolution
the
anyway.
resolution will not even
Make it to the
make
ballot.
it.
Right.
Because I don't see doing the medical marijuana if there's not gonna be a dispensary to
No, I don't
sell
want
it.
to tax medical. It's just me.
So, there you
Well,
go.
the language here on it says, if non-medical, specific adult use recreational marijuana dispensaries are allowed in Granite County by vote of the people, should Granite County impose a 3% local option. I don't know how, given the ballot issue, the number on that clarifies that any, but. So,
Yeah, I don't either. I can't see it where it clarifies it. He's just making waves, don't listen to him.
Oh. Well, you know, I appreciate the,
It's Okay, go
comment,
ahead.
yeah, you know, I appreciate that several people last week said it could be confusing. So what I'm proposing is what, you know, or asking what can be done to make it less confusing to have all three of them on there, because I guess I'm not understanding how it is confusing until I know how it is confusing. I can't help necessarily with
The
a
only way
suggestion.
that this can be voted for is if it passes. So if it doesn't pass, then it's moot, it's nothing, it's gone. So even if you do get the signatures and it doesn't pass, there's not gonna be an excise tax, correct? Because there's no dispensaries.
She's just talking about how if we can clarify this language even more, so it's, make sure there's no confusion. And
So, yeah.
I don't know if we can, in just a little paragraph or whatever. For people that aren't in these discussions. But wait.
So just adding some language is not gonna
I don't
change
think
the
it is.
resolution to where it would be.
I guess I don't see it. The,
So we can't change this like next week?
yeah, it could be, some small minor, yeah.
Small minor changes.
Yeah.
A minor change to,
And it also has language in here that says, yeah, if they don't get the signatures, then basically you're not gonna have that, you're not gonna have either one of these ballot issues on.
yeah.
And so it's really contingent upon that.
We're about 50 signatures away from hitting the 375 mark, and of course we're going out every day. But my question is, okay, so assuming we get the signatures, assuming number 1 and 2 are on the ballot issue number 1 and ballot issue number 2, then ballot issue number 3 will be on there, and what if that passes, but ballot issue number 1 doesn't? Are you still gonna, does that make it moot at that point for medical sales? Does that make sense?
So if they vote down the medical, then it's voted down and we don't tax medical, is that what you're asking?
I'm asking if they vote for the tax on medical, but ballot issue number 1 fails, then are you still gonna tax medical?
Yes.
Because there will still be a dispensary,
Yeah, it depends on how
assuming
the-
it remains
yeah.
open,
Depending on how that ballot issue is voted on for medical marijuana, yeah,
then
it's separate.
so they're not both moot. I just wanted to clarify that, cause it sounded like that's what was said earlier, but number 2 would be a moot, but maybe number 3 wouldn't, depending on the result of number 3. Okay. Anybody else?
Okay, so your question is, if the signatures are there, then you have ballot issue number 1 for or against dispensaries. Then you have ballot issue number 2 saying, if, which it did pass, but we have to say if, because this is a timeline. Do you vote for an excise tax? If that fails, then there's no excise tax on recreational marijuana. But ballot issue number 3, they want a medical tax on medical marijuana.
So it's best just to wait till after the election.
Yeah, medical marijuana would be a separate.
So who would
proposition.
vote? They want it on medical but not on recreational.
That's not the question. So the question is, if ballot issue number 1 fails, and by fails I mean it doesn't pass and there's no recreational sales allowed in Granite County still, then ballot issue number 2 is moot, but ballot issue number 3 would still be valid because it's not dependent upon anything. So assuming that
Yeah.
passes, then I assume that would not be moot, and that the 3% tax on medical would still apply.
That'd be my understanding.
So how are you gonna tax if there's no dispensary? So you'll still dispense for medical?
Yeah, it's not, medical's still allowed in the, medical dispensaries are allowed in the county.
Yes, then I guess whatever little bit of revenue comes in will be taxed.
Okay, alright, thank you.
And, yeah.
Okay. And then, just one final comment, if there's any, if there's any commissioner or anybody, any citizen that has a recommendation, of course, to make the language less confusing, of course, would like to hear from some of those folks that said it would be confusing and didn't wanna put it out there. In their minds, what is confusing? How could it be less confusing, other than it not being there altogether? So just
Well, I guess
putting that out there.
That would be called getting out there in the public and trying to explain, like with the last petition that was on the primary, people were still confused even when people got out there and explained. So once our resolution is done with and we get the ballot issues on, then it would be up to it's not up to the commission to go out and clarify the language.
There's a distinction in all this between potentially confusing to one person and unconstitutionally vague. If something unconstitutionally vague, then it would basically potentially void it. It would void it. So we're not going to be able to, I think, make any of these ballot language that are going to be totally clear to 100% of the people. But you're right, and that's for the people to get out and explain it.
And the reason that we had to say if is to get it in the time frame to get it to be on the ballot.
Right.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be on the ballot. So whether, I know with Chuck saying no, he didn't want it because it's confusing, but it carried that Scott and I want it. So there it is.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that comment and make that known, that Mr. Hinkle thought it was confusing. What would make it less confusing? We don't have a response to that, and just leave it at that.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Thank you.
And I don't think it's confusing. There you go. So
It's opinion.
you can
Yeah.
say Commissioner McClure doesn't feel it's confusing if you wanted to use references.
The language as you're talking about,
Yeah.
is in the ballot.
Yeah,
Ballot language.
I mean, I understand the ballot language.
Yeah, I just don't see how you can make it, follow the statute and make it any more clear.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Lady Gagliano for the record. Point of clarification, because now I am confused. Is the dispensary of recreational marijuana legal or not legal in Granite County? Question one.
Okay, so that is because of the vote in the primary?
Did you say medical marijuana?
No,
Or
recreational.
recreational? Is allowed until that, it's legal until September 4th, 2022. And then it's the 90 days from the election. And so then it will be unless changed by vote of the
Yeah.
people.
So on the 4th, they cannot sell recreational.
Sorry,
Okay.
last day is the 4th, so
Going forward on the fifth,
Yeah,
medical
correct.
only.
So the 5th,
4th is the last day to sell.
okay, you can sell on September 4th, the 5th they can't,
And that's recreational.
and that's recreational.
Okay, so when this vote goes in November, it's illegal. So how can you be talking about a tax or even talking about recreational? If you're going to talk about a tax and the only dispensary of marijuana is medicinal, then the ballot should say 3% tax on medicinal. You're confusing the issue talking about recreational since it's going to be illegal as of the 5th, 2022. So now if this group comes up with the required signatures to put the new ballot issue, which would be, I guess, only regarding recreational marijuana, that'll be up to them getting the signatures.
So if it passes, then if our ballot issues pass, then we can tax it immediately instead of having a special election or waiting 2 years down the road to put a ballot issue on the ballot to tax it. Now we can't tax any of it.
Medicinal is legal. That's all you're talking about, right? Is putting a tax on medical marijuana.
No, it'd be, if recreational passes, then would, non-medical marijuana be taxed as well?
Okay, but right now, the point being, it's going to be illegal. And this group wants to put it on the ballot because I'm sure if that goes on the ballot, do you want recreational marijuana dispensed in Granite County? All those people that voted in the primary will not be confused by it. And they will say yes, period. But now, again, the issue is being sort of confusing, throwing in a 3% tax on medical. Medical is already legal, so that's a separate issue.
Exactly, and
3%.
there's two separate ballot
That's it.
issues.
But the second ballot doesn't comply to anything because we're talking about something illegal.
You're going along with what Chuck was arguing, it's too confusing is basically what he was saying. So
Well, if
you're,
you wanted, I'm sorry, if you wanted to put a second ballot saying, we're going to, since there was confusion, we're going to leave it up to the people and let them vote yes or no, do you want recreational marijuana sold in Granite County? That would be 2 ballots. But the way
That's
it
one
stands,
ballot
it's like
issue.
if it doesn't rain in 2 months, well, what are we worried about the dam for? You
Second
know,
comment?
if something doesn't
Second
happen,
comment?
it's,
Okay,
I'm just saying, this
Okay.
is my comment, so
Okay.
it's confusing.
You gave public comment last week encouraging this.
yeah, you did. You did.
Well, my public comment being, because I don't think it's gonna be up to you if they get the signatures, then it's gonna be on a ballot regarding, recreational marijuana. They don't have to ask your permission, am I correct? Once we get the petition, the signatures are verified, then that's gonna be on the ballot.
Recreational
Where'd that come
dispensaries.
from? That doesn't even make any sense.
If they get the signatures, recreational marijuana will be on the ballot. If that's the case, pursuant to this resolution, there'll also be the ballot issue on tax on non-medical marijuana and also on medical marijuana. And so it's all contingent based upon what the commission said is if they get the signatures in that first ballot issue on allowing recreational dispensaries or not. If that's, they get the requisite signatures for that, and it's on the ballot, then they'll have the other 2 issues on tax. There'll have to be 2 separate ballot issues. So with the hospital levy one, there'll be 4 ballot issues if that's the case.
But aren't you combining 2 things on one ballot? You're saying if it's approved, or if recreational, then there'll be a tax.
No, there'll be 2
Isn't
separate,
that 2
two
things?
separate ones. The first one would be, will they allow it or not? The second one, if it is allowed, will there be tax or not, the 3% local option tax. So there'll be 2 separate ballot issues on that.
And then the third one is taxing medical, whether she tax medical.
Third ballot issue.
Yeah.
See, because I don't understand if it's gonna be allowed. We already know they voted against it. So it's illegal now.
I was talking about the vote.
Recreational.
The vote in November, if they allow it in November.
Did you have a comment, Gail?
Gail Leeper, for the record.
Can you come up here, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. So obviously, it's very confusing for all in just talking about it. I'm a visual person, so I wrote it out. Because there has to be two separate ballot issues, I guess you'd call it, for medical and for recreational. You have to separate them, number one. A question to you, Blaine, is it becomes illegal, recreation becomes illegal on the 5th.
Correct. September 4th, 2022 is the last day to sell recreational.
Right, so then it's on the ballot in November, then, and say it passes, just hypothetically, then it becomes legal again in January.
90 days from November, so yeah,
Oh,
December,
gotcha.
January, February, so
not
90
till
days
February.
from the, yeah.
Okay. Okay, and, okay, that makes sense. But, and you have to have, but there also could be a special election, correct?
Correct. If there was a, say they didn't get the number of signatures required this time, they could do another petition and ask for a special election, correct, on recreation. Right now, they continue to do it. I disagree with that, but by statute, you can continue to do petition, every.
And so that special election would be in the spring, or when would that special election occur?
It should be, I would say, should be requested in the petition on when they want the election.
Gotcha, okay,
Yeah.
okay, but,
You're
but-
saying that recreational is, they don't get the signatures now, they do another petition next year. Yeah, my thought would be that they put in the petition when they want a special election, or have the election. Yeah.
So are you saying special election, they would want a special election again for or against the dispensaries?
for medical. Say it does,
Oh, I thought you were talking about recreational.
or excuse me, I meant recreational.
Okay,
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
Wow, and guess what? Every state that has gone through this,
Yeah, it's a learning
you know,
curve.
so we just have to be respectful to each other, that's all.
Yeah, right now you could, if recreational, they didn't get the signatures now, or the people voted against it in November, they could do another petition next year for recreational dispensary. To me, that's a problem with the statute, then hopefully it'll get fixed, but, continue to do a revolving door. But my opinion would be right now is that the cost of that special election would be on the petitioners.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
if they-
Just public comment, I talked to Kelly Lynch, Montana League of Cities and Towns, to make sure I was understanding that revolving, and if, her opinion was if she thought it was going to be put before the legislation again, and she said, no, she did not feel that, but that's, I mean, a lot of it is just, we have to wait and see
Yeah.
how the voters vote with this, but.
Yeah, you never know if, well, time's coming down to it on proposals of legislation, so.
Sure,
yeah,
yes, yes. Anyway, thank you.
Go ahead,
So,
state your name again.
Justine Richmond, I'm sorry. We had been advised that should ballot issue number 1 not pass and allow recreational sales, oh no, I'm sorry, the opposite, that if it I'm not trying to confuse anybody, I'm so sorry. But we were advised that should ballot issue number 1 pass and allow recreational sales again, that there was not a 90-day grace period. That was silent in the legislation or in the statute.
Never been done.
So, let me clarify that, the tax would come in 90 days, is my reading of the statute, yeah, let me clarify that.
But the sales,
The sales, I'd have to double check the statute.
I don't think there's
Yeah,
language for
I
it,
think it's,
because we're making
Yeah.
history if it happens.
it's,
Yeah.
the statute's silent is what they said on the,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
So,
yeah, I misspoke there.
okay, so it sounds like, should it pass, should ballot issue number 1 pass and recreational sales are allowed again in Granite County, then we'd have to find out for sure when they would be allowed again. It may not be 90 days.
Yeah,
It may
the,
be,
the final say on that's gonna be Department of Revenue's attorney. It's gonna,
Okay.
yeah, but, I'll take a look at be willing to take a look at the statute. I think you're right, I don't recall seeing that effective date on
I don't think it's ever
Yeah.
happened.
but the
It's,
tax, the
yeah.
tax would be a 90
tax is,
day
in the statute, the
implementation.
tax is
Okay.
90 days,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And for, when it was prohibited, the statute says 90 days from the election. And Department of Revenue interpret that from the date of the election and not from when the election was certified.
Just one comment, so you know that our 11:30 a.m. Granite County Medical Center CEO, Maria Stockler, is not available, so that's why I'm letting the resolution 2022 continue. So if there isn't any other public comment on resolution 2022, we will. Just one thing I'm going to say, and I've said this before, is there's a time frame here, and I'm certainly sorry that it's confusing all of a sudden. It's either don't put it on, which you requested us, please get it on, you just didn't want the medical on, you didn't feel you wanted the medical on.
Right.
So you basically said, okay, we're gonna close our doors. Yeah, you did, I can find it, you did, I can find it.
You did.
Okay.
Okay,
But
just
it's-
my, okay, but
but not
there's
from-
this timeline that we have to get these 2 readings on the resolution. So, and we've discussed, and Chuck was for the medical marijuana, and then all of a sudden now he's not wanting to tax it. So people keep changing their minds on the reason we want the time frame. The reason we agreed to it is it's actually monetary because it saves a special election and it gets us tax money maybe sooner. And also we don't have to wait 2 years down the road to put it back on a general ballot so that we can tax it. Am I stating this
Yeah, I
correctly?
think that's, not fully sure how Commissioner Adler was thinking about things, but I think that's the way that discussion was last week. That's consistent. There was discussion last week about medical marijuana not bringing in that much revenue, and
Right.
so that,
Well,
yeah,
the
that's.
discussion
new.
was that should you not get the signatures, we're gonna reject the whole resolution and not even put the medical on there. Because it'd be moot
Yeah.
situation. So if you say, like, if you got it on, this is an if, this is up to the voters, this is where the voters decide. If they're confused, they're confused, if they're not, then if they're confused, they need educated. If they're not confused, they can vote. So if they said, no, we don't want recreational marijuana taxed and medical passed, I mean, that's really confusing to the elector, or to the, that'd be dumb.
I think I believe it's on, it's not gonna be, if they get the signatures, they have all the ballot issues on there, I think people will understand it.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah,
they want or they don't want a tax on it,
yeah,
both issues. So it's there,
gives the people
yeah,
the power to make the decision.
gives the electors a little credit, I say. Yes,
So, the second reading will be next week? Thank you.
yes, and where you wanted it tabled,
If you would've tabled it, then
We
you can't
would've
have it a
been-
second reading,
which,
actually. Again,
Well-
the second reading is not required by statute, it's required by the county's public participation. Resolution requires 2 readings.
okay. So the second one, by public
you guys, public participation resolution requires it.